It's spring, finally. And I'm gonna make you a tart to celebrate. It has a lot of asparagus. It's spring, and asparagus is the first thing we see. Also some spring onions. They look like baby onions with a stalk. I'm gonna show you how to do it. What we're gonna do is roast the asparagus and the bulbs of the spring onions together. I'm gonna go ahead and quarter the bulbs. We're gonna toss it all together on this sheet tray, partly because they're pretty and partly because it's gonna caramelize those sugars, make it really tasty. So I'm gonna add the asparagus to the tray, give it a little oil, salt, as always, and some pepper. Just give it a toss with your hands. And just make sure whenever you're roasting stuff that it's in one even layer. And then into the oven. It's like 425 in there. Okay, now I'm gonna saute up the rest of my asparagus and the spring onions. So I'm just gonna get my skillet going on like medium high, add a little butter and a little oil. Mixing butter and oil raises the smoke point of the butter so it won't burn. Finish chopping up those stems of the spring onions, 1/4 inch thin, and just the light green part, so you'll stop before you get to that dark green part. And then into the skillet with the rest of the asparagus. So I'm just gonna cook this down a little till it's tender. Once it gets in the tart, it won't cook much more. So I'm gonna give it a season, salt, as always, and pepper. And let that do its thing for a little bit. I'm gonna whisk up my custard. First, 8 ounces of goat cheese, the soft kind, 1/4 cup of creme fraiche. Truthfully, you could use sour cream if you had it, but not low fat. And then 1/4 cup again of heavy cream. That's heavy cream, not light cream. It won't do the same thing. And I'm just gonna kind of soften it just to get it going. It'll be easier to whisk. 3 eggs. We're calling this thing a tart, but it's really a quiche. The dairy plus the eggs makes your custard. And the last egg, 1 hand. I'm gonna whisk the eggs in here till it's nice and smooth. It's kind of hard with the goat cheese, so I'm gonna have to like massage it in a little bit. I'm gonna check on the asparagus tips and the spring onion bulbs. I think those are probably ready. They look awesome. And then some fresh herbs, chives, tarragon, and parsley. So I'm just picking the leaves off the stems. If your stems are super tender, you can just chop them in there together, but these are a little bit thicker. That looks good. Okay, so that goes right into the custard. When you're trimming chives, you can keep the rubber band or twist tie on it. It's gonna keep them together and keep it nice and even as you chop. I only need like 2 teaspoons, so it'll probably just be the end. And just give it a stir to combine. It's a nice thick custard. Oh, and season it with salt and pepper, because always. And then just give that a good stir. Okay, good to go. Now I'm gonna grab our tart shell. It's just a basic pie dough. Blind baked it with some baking beans and parchment paper, and then took the beans out and baked it until it was nice and golden. You see that? So I'm just gonna scatter the sauteed asparagus and spring onions in the bottom of the shell. Sometimes your asparagus bunches are gonna be really big. If you've got too many, then great, you've got a snack, but don't overfill it at this stage. And then the custard just gets poured right over the top. It's pretty thick, so go ahead and even it out if you have to. If you have way too much filling for your crust, back off. It's not worth it to have an overflowing mess in the oven. Last thing we're gonna do is add the roasted bits right on top. It's gonna be super pretty. And again, if you've got too much asparagus, too many onions, hold them back. You can always throw them in a salad. Okay, that looks nice. Okay, now into the oven at 375 just until the filling's set. And if you're nervous that you're gonna overflow, put the tart on a rim baking sheet. It's a little easier to get in and out. I pulled this guy out like 20 minutes ago and just gave it some time for the custard to settle. Now I'm gonna take it out of the tart pan. And this is pretty easy because the crust kind of came in a little bit. Okay, now I'm gonna cut myself a nice wedge. I kind of want a lot of onion. I think right there is good. And it's not so thick and dense like other quiches that you have trouble getting through it. This tart is awesome for brunch, obviously, but I like this kind of thing for dinner too. Salad, nice glass of wine. That's a spring tart if I ever saw one. For this and more great spring ideas, go to bonappetit.com/spring.